Once this bike went mullet, I could never go back. Should Yeti still even make 29ers? Quite a bit wetter than Colorado.
Oh, there's my chain broken. Just a forest stroll. Welcome to May, best month of the year to ride bikes.
The game has significantly changed, and I couldn't be more excited. This bike is home to one absolutely incredible motor, and this means the goalposts have been shifted yet again for everyone else. The new Yeti MTe houses what I feel is the most impressive e-bike drive system I've tried yet, the all-new TQ HPR 60. This motor is so good, and the large 580 watt-hour battery is so capable, I'll do an entire separate video on just that alone. But today, we're going to appreciate Yeti's second ever e-bike, the MTe.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining me. It's New Bike Day. Let's pop open the new Yeti MTe, but before we do, I want to give a huge thank you to our fine friends at Endura who sponsored this video. Thank you, Endura. This is a media loaner bike, so I don't get to keep this bike in exchange for video. This video is not sponsored by Yeti. So with all that disclosed, let's pop this open and see what we got. Let's see if the seat post will work. Yes! You just never know with the wireless units if they're gonna like work out of the box sometimes. Oh, are these the radial tires? I've wanted to ride these things for a while. They were not even retail available at many shops. This thing looks incredible. I am already excited. 160 mil cranks, sign me up. There are different progression settings for the shock and the lower mount. That's super cool. And then the part spec on here seems pretty good, pretty burly. Maven brakes makes me think this is a bit more of a bigger hit SL e-mountain bike than I'm used to, which is awesome. I've been waiting for that. Just because we don't need a huge motor doesn't mean we don't want long travel. I'm excited to get this thing on the trails. Yeti is now selling consumer direct where you can buy any one of these bikes directly from their website. Seems normal now, wasn't normal a couple years ago, so big steps in a new direction. And if that's the build process for consumers, it's really easy. Just unwrap all the stuff, throw on the front wheel, put your handlebars on, cut your bars down to the width you want, and you should be good to go. All right, I'm gonna go test ride. I'll tell you guys about it later. Over the last 6 weeks, I've been riding the Yeti MTe quite a bit, and everything from total rain to nice, beautiful sunshine. Through all that time, I've been comfortable and well protected on the bike thanks to my friends from Endura who also sponsored this video. Thank you, Endura. I want to tell you all about the shorts and the pants that I wear in most of this video. Well, I've never been a pants model before, but I do like these Humvees. The shorts are the Endura Humvee shorts and the pants are the Humvee 2s. I really like both of these for a couple of reasons, and I want to share that real quick. First up, the material of both is extremely stretchy. This makes them super comfortable and they don't really get caught or anything while you're riding the bike. Next up, they have an integrated belt that works very well, and the shorts have these nice ventilation portions in the front for when the sun actually does come out. There's a pocket in back with a zipper on it for your wallet, and the hand pockets also zipper shut to keep your car keys safe. I've got a link in the description below, takes you over to all the Endura product available at Jensen USA, and they have several different versions of the Humvee line available now. Again, big thanks to Endura for sponsoring this video, and pop over to Jensen USA at that link below. Anything you purchase from Jensen USA at that link will then help support my channel. All right, let's get back to talking about the MTe. Do you like going up or going down?
Down.
You like down? Chip off the old block, eh? Often when I'm riding with kiddos, I leave the e-bikes turned off until I end up towing the kiddos. And this thing rides good turned off.
There's a deer.
Yeah, sure was a deer. Oh, that's a nice jump. Send it. Phew. Nice. You just dropped. You didn't pull for it.
I know. It's called a drop, not a pull.
Had a lovely ride with my daughter, and now it's bike testing ride time. Let's hit some jumps. Oh, over clear. What was that sound?
On my first ride, I was planning a relatively conservative loop around my usual trails. But by the time I'd made it to the first summit, I had a lot more battery left than I expected, and got to revel in substantially longer first ride. This continued to be the theme with the MTe. I even rode this bike in full boost when tight on time, and the ride possibilities have been more generous than cars from Oprah. Onto the bike. Feedback around Yeti's current EMTB, the 160E, is very positive. It uses a Shimano EP8 drive system, and the race team has had some great success with that bike.
That back end is very forgiving and planted. Oh.
The 160E uses a 170 fork and surprisingly, first launched back in September 2021. The 4 years later, the only update is the EP801 motor, and Yeti has gone back for seconds, and there's nothing sloppy about the MTe. The MTe is a lighter, more maneuverable trail bike designed less for racing and more for all-around usage. Yeti is grabbing 145 millimeters of rear travel out of the most pivots I've seen this side of Tempe, Arizona.
We're here in Phoenix, Arizona at the Pivot Cycles headquarters.
The rear end features 6 components rather than the normal 4.
The 6-bar, cool. If 5G LTE is pretty good, then 6 bars is gonna be better. Riding the MTe for a couple weeks. Today I got one of my favorite. Oh, there we go. One of my favorite spots. Oh, it's not a little bike, but wheelie's okay, huh?
Why does Yeti have 6 pivots? Well, Yeti claims it's simply due to packaging. Apparently, the Switch Infinity system on their analog bike takes up the space needed by the drive unit. This 6-piece system can be tuned in a way to provide the characteristics that Yeti wants. There is an almost identical wheel path between both of the Infinity systems, either Switch or 6. Yeti explained that anti-squat drives the wheel path and affects the bike's efficiency. Interestingly enough, the instant center is in a different spot between the 2 systems. The same anti-squat curve, but a very different ride feel. Well, I don't know. I haven't ridden the SB160 enough recently to really compare the 2, but I don't really have any reason to doubt Yeti a lot there. What I did find interesting is that Yeti uses a higher initial anti-squat on the MTe than they do on the race-oriented 160E. It's the same amount of anti-squat through the normal pedaling range, so I don't really know how much that's going to matter. I can't say I really notice a lot of this anti-squat stuff on the trail, but I'm also not super picky about my rear end nerdery. I'll talk about what it feels when we are on the trail as we get through this general info. The MTe geometry is nothing crazy, but features a 64 head angle, a steep 77 seat angle, and super long 449 chainstays on all 4 sizes. The fork is the latest Fox 36 all-mountain Grip X2 with 160 mils of travel. The rear shock is a Float-X, and Yeti claims to have established their own tune without Fox's input. Signaling a shift in philosophy, this is the first ever Yeti to incorporate an adjustable rear end to fit both 29 and 27.5 wheels. That's right, other Yetis have been dedicated to one wheel size. This is the first instance of a flip chip in the Turquoise brand's lineup. And thank goodness, because the Mullet rear wheel massively improves this bike. A progression adjuster is carried over from the 160E, though this time it's simplified and reduced in significance, simply going from 14 to 25% progression. I rode and rode and rode the MTe. That motor system is so good.
Jeff's trying to go up this. We'll see if it works.
It totally got steeper. Oh my, there's no way. There's no way. It's gonna be really hard to get up these ledges. And I'm in 3rd gear, which is a bit tall for the rest of this. I don't think I can make this. Oh. Well, there's my chain broken.
Ooh.
Sweet, I don't have a quick link. I haven't broken a chain in a long time.
What happened there?
I shifted and went to pedal. Single shift. Womp womp.
I mean, you were shifting under power
Yeah.
on an e-bike, I'm assuming, at full boost?
Yeah, 350 watt max power e-bike, so like lightweight, low power e-bike.
Yeah. On a steep hill.
Yeah.
That's a lot of force on that chain.
Yeah, I can't fix this right here. I don't have a SRAM quick link.
As I always do, I did my best to dial in the MTe for my personal tastes and experiences. First up, I ditched the stock tires. This is my first time riding Schwalbe radials, and this was not a good time for me to have a first experience with them.
I ruined the brake. Lever just snapped off. I'm throwing on a pair of Maxxis double down max grip tires because these Schwalbes are different than what I'm used to. I keep noticing a distinct lack of traction in berms, particularly. I push hard, the bike just starts to wash right out. Tires do slide on this wet stuff more than I thought they would. Wow. The Schwalbes aren't bad, the radials are okay, but it's just a different setup for tires, and I want to ride them, but I also want to give this bike a fair shake. I want to really understand it, so I'm going to put on more of a control tire, something I have personally more experience with. Recycle some sealant and we'll get this bike on the trail. This is probably so not proper to recycle sealant. I don't even know what brands I'm mixing together, and I don't care. Oh man, the sealant probably needs to be gluten-free.
With this change, the bike now weighs in at 46 pounds. That's a heavy bike, but still in SL territory. Halfway through that first ride, I bumped into Sai from FreeHub. I mentioned that I was bottoming out all the time, and he mentioned that the shock progression adjuster was significant.
I just bumped into Sai from FreeHub, and he mentioned you flip the shock mount to get the more progressive setting. Let's try that, because that might make this bike a lot better. It's always kind of scary taking apart a perfectly good bike mid-ride, but I'm running 200 PSI back here, and I am bottoming quite a bit. At the bottom of the shock, there's a set of chips you can remove and rotate to the other side of the bike, and that changes the angle of the shock. It came more forwards, and I just changed it to be backwards. In theory, that should be harder to bottom out now, but I'm not sure. Here we go.
Oh! So I pulled over mid-root garden and flipped that chip. It certainly helped, but I still needed more.
That might have helped some. Not a world of difference, though.
Oh. After a few more rides, I tried a 0.6 volume reducer in the rear shock, and this certainly helped. At the beginning of the first ride, I noticed that the Yeti is really, really good at getting through square-edged hits. Successive rocks and roots are where the MTe is flexing its golden muscle. This bike would be an absolute weapon in Arizona, Utah, and Colorado area trails. In fact, if I didn't wear my glasses, I could have sworn this bike says South Mountain Sniper on the branding. But still, it was taking me quite a while to really feel at home on the MTe. I could ride it just fine, but I was using a lot more effort to do things that just happen naturally on some other bikes. Trails I normally love were more work than I expected.
I've been riding the Yeti MTe for a few weeks now. Great little bike. Let's try something dumb.
I haven't done this in a few years. Last time I did it was on an acoustic bike, so it double counted. Head high.
So what, 8 feet tall?
Mentally, I was like, shit, I'm doing it. And I got surprised. I was like, okay, catch your breath. I didn't want to do it quite yet. I keep getting nervous. I keep thinking about not falling off. Just not the right attitude to have. Oh, that was it. And I was just chickening out. It's so scary.
Nomination for scariest line of the year, right here.
Oh, kind of missed my turn, but I made it down the hill. I did it. Scariest line of the year, for real. Wow.
I think much of this is due to the longer back end, but I also wasn't jiving immediately with the rear suspension. Problem was, if I hit our jumps and berms with the same tenacity as on most other bikes, it would bottom out more suddenly and easily than I expected. As per my usual, I added a larger volume reducer in the stock Fox Float X. A couple rides on this setup, using the progressive shock mount and the larger reducer, and jumping feel was much improved. But still, at the top of the travel, I was experiencing less traction than normal. Don't get me wrong, when smashing through successive obstacles, this back end is fantastic. But it was those greasy, muddy turns, the slippery off cambers, and random trail curves where I noticed the back end would be sliding sooner than I'd ever expect. On a whim, I tossed another shock I have here onto the bike. I know the guys who tuned it, and on other bikes, the shock has a more open, low-speed feel, but still some solid high-speed damping. It definitely felt more plush at the top of the travel.
I just grabbed this Float X. It's a pretty open tune, probably one of the best tuned Float X's I've ever ridden. I'm gonna throw this on here and see if it makes the back end feel as good as it probably should. I think I've gone on record saying I don't really care that much about a bike's rear suspension. It's nice to have a good system, of course, but is it as important as a lot of the media and nerds will tell you it is? I don't think so. I have generally been of the opinion that it's a bicycle, and if you're relying on your suspension to keep you safe and in control, then you are cruising for a bruising, because we don't have that much suspension in the first place. Yeah, technique matters more than suspension. Always has, always will.
The volume reducer is more noticeable than the shock swap, but together, and this was my precious. On the SB160 and SB140, I noticed similar things, that the suspension was slightly firmer to get into than what I tend to prefer. It's better than the older pivot bikes, but still not as immediately plush as some other rides. For example, bikes from Evil, Ibis, Norco, Canyon, Rocky Mountain, or Santa Cruz. But once that Yeti rear end is cycling, it unrolls a magic carpet of forgiveness. I think a big part of this is that Yeti prioritizes efficiency and performance on fast, hard-packed, rocky trails like those close to their headquarters in Golden, Colorado. Where I live and ride, we have simple logging road climbs, and pedaling efficiency isn't a massive concern. With the rear end sorted, I began pondering over how to have the experience on the MTe that I really wanted. I realized I had a perfectly good 27.5 wheel on the shelf. Utilizing the seat stay mounted flip chips, I got that round slice of delight bolted among the infinite pivots. I'm not a massive fan of mulleting a bike. I tend to prefer the rollover, traction, and balance of dual 29-inch wheels. But what I experienced on the MTe, well, I don't think I found anywhere else. Holy cow, this thing really turned a corner. I can't remember another bike that I appreciated more once it had a smaller back wheel, but rigs like the Ripmo, Firebird, and Spire, I all definitely preferred with matching wheels. I enjoyed the Bronson, but I loved that Hightower. Now, this is a review and not just me rambling about a bike. For someone with a wheels on the ground style in an area like the Southwest, a stock MTe is going to be a great bike. But I'm in a very jumpy, bermy, flowy zone. Once I had the right volume reducer and the smaller rear wheel, the story became nearly complete. I found myself going for big rides on the MTe, challenging myself to maintain at least 200 watts of output to keep myself honest. Ridden in this fashion, and the battery range is fantastic. Power is plentiful. I can tow my daughter no problem up some big mountains with this system. I'm confidently able to exceed 5,000 feet of vertical. I haven't had the 5 hours I need to see about a true ultimate range test, but for all-around riding, the range is exactly where I think an SL MTB should be. Comparisons. Norco Fluid VLT. A close competitor to the Yeti, the Norco Fluid VLT arrived here last summer. I rode it everywhere from bike parks to double black diamond BC Loamers to manicured jump lines. The Norco is a little short on fork travel, and the Bosch SX drive system is nowhere as good as the new TQ HPR 60. I did prefer the shorter back end of the Fluid. However, the Yeti is more versatile, and despite a little more weight, is able to provide a lot more ride time on the trail. Yeti has the longer travel needed to really enjoy the wild stuff. Yeti also enjoys a more balanced overall feel between the shorter reach and positioning of the battery. Canyon Spectral On Fly. The Canyon was a great bike, and I even ranked it second in the SL EMTB shootout. However, its TQ HPR 50 is a disappointment compared to Yeti's new HPR 60. The older system has such terrible range, almost half of what the newer does, and that's really the main drawback to the Spectral. TQ emailed me that the new motor sort of fits the Spectral, but TQ did not respond to my follow-up questions about how to actually get an upgraded motor, nor if the larger battery could fit inside the Spectral. I actually preferred the suspension feel of the Spectral over the Yeti, and the slightly shorter back end was fun on the trail, but the HPR 50 tips the scale in favor of turquoise. Pivot Shuttle SLAM. The recent Pivot has been a fantastic bike, and I again prefer both the suspension and geometry over what's on the Yeti. The Geo is very close, but the slacker seat angle of the SLAM is more comfortable for me in most scenarios. The slightly shorter rear end jumps a little bit better. The DW Link was easier for me to adapt to, offering some feelings of square edge forgiveness, but also a nice initial sensitivity and a good bottom-out support. Unfortunately, the Bosch SX again is not my favorite system. I'd much rather use the new HPR 60 over the Bosch SX. Conclusion. Yeti's second entry to the EMTB market is a really, really good one. The use of the TQ HPR 60 is a great choice. I have my nitpicks about the geometry and the suspension of the Yeti, but admittedly, I'm riding in a very different sort of terrain than where Yeti is designing this bike. I don't love this Ram Maven brakes, and the DT Swiss EXC 1700 carbon rear wheel suffered from substantial spoke tension loss. But I won't spend a ton of time on those trivialities. It feels like Yeti developed the MTe to be a rock muncher and to suit a wheels on the ground riding style. I love that riders get choices because we don't all ride in the same way. My final complaint is the noise. The headset has been creaking since day one, little pops and crunches, and it's not just that. My daughter even noticed some more sounds.
Every single jump there was you jumped.
Really?
Yeah.
How could you tell?
Because I keep hearing the e-bike go clonk.
Clonk.
As soon as, right after I passed a jump, I heard it go clonk.
Oh man, I didn't think this bike is very clunky at all.
Oh, I hear it go clonk.
I also had some pivots loosen up, and that caused some easily diagnosed and easily fixed noises as well. This all might sound like a lot of complaining on my end, but I kept grabbing that MTe and taking it out for longer and longer rides. It's a great bike that can serve many purposes, and I want to congratulate Yeti on making such a nice rig.
I've had a lot of fun riding the MTe. I might not necessarily fit within Yeti's target demographic for a bike like this. I might be too hyperactive, too jumpy, and I still had a fantastic time on this thing. That new motor is really, really, really good. And the rest of the bike is also a top-notch package. Big thanks to Yeti for loaning me this thing. Big thanks to Endura for sponsoring the video. And thanks to all of you for tuning in and watching this stuff. This is a really good bike. I had a lot of fun riding it and I learned a whole bunch. This has been fantastic. All right, everyone. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to Logan for helping film, Riley helping film and edit. And again, thanks to all of you for watching. I'll see you guys in the comments. Peace and wheelies.